Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Tim, and as promised, I am beginning a playthrough of Skies Above Britain. Taking a little break here from Silent War. We just finished up February 1944 and been itching to give this one a try. I've been watching a lot of videos on it the last few days, and so I thought I'd take a break and play some of this. So what I'm going to do is start with I'm just going to work my way through the situation manual. I've already played some of these a while back when I first got the game, but I'm going to play through them again just to refresh my memory. And the way this works is it's like a programmed learning type thing, where you start off with some very basic scenarios that just go over the dogfighting cycle. Then it moves you into a few scenarios that cover the bomber cycle. Then the interception sequence. This one isn't really a scenario, it's just kind of an example they have in there of how the raid vector sequence works as part of a complete patrol. And then it takes you into the campaigns themselves. So we're going to work through all of these and learn to play the game, and then we'll jump into a campaign. So we're going to start here with, as I said, let me get the camera tilted down here. With the dogfight scenarios, it tells you what rules you need to look at in the rule book. You basically read up to page 16, and that will give you everything you need to know to work through the dogfighting scenarios. It mentions here that you don't really need the squadron display for these. I'll probably use them once we get into where we're actually doing complete sections, but this first one is just a single fighter, so there's really no need for that. So scenario 1, a flyby. Let's do it this way. August 1940, Flight Lieutenant Gordon Olive, A Flight of 65 Squadron, maneuvered above a formation of Ju-88s when Tracer indicated that I was being shot at, and I turned to meet a head-on attack by a lone Me-109. We flew at each other, all guns going, and I ducked under him at the last moment. You are Gordon Olive, facing your enemy alone at the start of this dogfight. See if you can bag your quarry. So as you can see here, very basic setup. We've just got a single Spitfire. We're using red leader for that. And then a single 109. No, they're 109s by the Rota side, or Rata. I'm not sure how you pronounce that correctly in German, but I'm going to go with Rota, I think. All right. And yeah, basically we just play out this dogfight until we're either shot down or they are shot down or fly off. So the way this works, getting some weird lighting artifacts off of there. I have to see if we can figure out why that's doing that. All right, so what's going to happen is, so in a dogfight situation, there's three what they call attitudes that you can be in. One is head-on, which is the way this scenario starts out. You could also be tailing, which would be you're behind them, or you can be tailed, where they're behind you. And we'll see how that comes into play here with the cards that we draw to resolve this. So there are 4 decks of cards for the fighters, for the British fighters. There's 2 for the Spitfires. So you have 1 deck for when you are being tailed. And then you have another deck for when you're either head-on or tailing. You notice these are both for Spitfire. And then there's other decks for when you're using Hurricanes, which are the other type of British fighter that you can use in this game. So we're just going to set these here so they're ready to use. And then what happens is when you start the dogfight cycle is you'll draw an appropriate card based on your attitude. So in this case, we are head on, and I've shuffled these already. You shuffle them before each dogfight cycle. And then the card looks like this, and so it's basically a matrix, so you have to look at a few things here. First of all, since this is for head-on and tailing, you have to see if you're tailing, then you'll use this half of the card. If you're head-on, you'll use this half of the card. And so we're ignoring the left half because we're head-on. And then you have to look over here and see, are you a single fighter or are you part of a section? That'll determine which row to look at. And then up here, this is a graphic indicating you're going up against 109s or if you're going up against 110s. So in this case, we are a single fighter going up against a 109. And so where those meet, we look at these results. And the back of the rule book lists all of these, what all of these icons mean. Yeah, starting here. So we've got all these different card icons and what they mean, and some examples of how to apply them. So what we're looking for is what's called a vanish result. Here it is. And you can resolve these in whatever order you want. Sometimes it's advantageous to do one before the other, and you'll see as we go along where those situations might arise. But so the vanish result is remove one Luftwaffe marker. If engaged with more than one marker, remove the one that the section or RAF fighter is battling now. So like if, for example, we also had one on our tail, then because we're resolving the head-on attack, it would remove the one that's coming at us head-on. So, and it doesn't matter how many, you know, if it's a single, if it's a pair, if it's 3, or if it's 4, a full swarm, the entire marker just goes away. So that just represents that they, you know, zipped past us and they're now out of our sight. This icon then is where are we at? Here it is, reinforcements. And reinforcements says, place a new rota so that it is engaged with the section or RAF fighter. Do not draw a new advantage card, which we haven't gotten to what advantage cards are yet, but note the silhouette. It indicates the Luftwaffe fighter type. And then note the orientation of the silhouette. It indicates the rota's angle of attack, either head-on or tailing your fighters. So in this case, and here's some examples of that. So if it's using the 109 icon, then it'll be a rota of 109s. If it's using the 110 icon, then it'll be 110s. So in our case, we are being tailed now by a rota of 109s. So we can just use the same marker. If you flip it over, it's got the pair on the reverse side. So we're now in this situation. So since we haven't been shot down yet and all of the enemies have not been shot down or flown off, we continue. And so now we draw a new card, but now we are being tailed. So we're going to draw it from this deck. And these are laid out a little bit differently. So again, we're a single fighter and we're going up against a 109. So we have to resolve these two symbols. So this is a hit symbol. And so when you get a hit result, the RAF fighter is hit. Randomly draw a hit marker from the cup and place it on or next to it. If the result appears on a dogfight card and affects a section, then you randomly select one of the fighters in that section. And if it's a double hit, each one will be randomly assigned. And some effects that the hits have, you can't maneuver, which we'll see what that's all about here shortly. Actually, we could have performed a maneuver here, because whenever you're being tailed, you have the option to perform a maneuver. We chose not to in this case. And then hit check. So there's a hit check step where you'll check to see if the hit actually takes you out or if you shake it off, if it was trivial damage. So we're going to draw a random marker from this cup. And you use the red side for this when it's a hit. And so this is a hit on the fuselage, and the severity, or whatever you want to call it, is a 4. We'll see how that works here in a second. The second, whoops, not that card, this card. The second symbol is the reduce result. Reduce is right here. And for that, one German fighter flies away, is not destroyed, and does not count as a kill. So you basically just reduce it by one fighter. So in our case, we have a rota. It's reduced and becomes a single fighter. All right, now we go to the hit check phase, which I guess I maybe should have explained this before we started here. This is the entire sequence of play for the full game, and it looks really complicated, but it's, once you get used to it, it's really straightforward and easy to follow. We're just focusing in on this one part here for these first few scenarios, the dogfight cycle. So the first thing you do is you resolve any head-on engagements that you have. Then tailed, and it mentions there that you're allowed to choose a maneuver for that. And then tailing. So you always do them in that order if you have multiple contacts on you. Then after doing that is when you do the hit check. And it's either severe or trivial. If it's severe, you get sent to what's called the fate box. You've been shot down, and then at the end you'll roll to see what actually happened to that pilot. And then assuming you're still engaged, then you will resume. You become lost contact, which we'll see what that means a little bit later. Doesn't really apply for these early scenarios, or doesn't make a difference, I should say. And you go back and repeat the dogfight cycle until everyone's in a fate box and or no one is in engaged any longer. All right, so we're going to go to the hit check step. And in order to do that, yikes, some nasty glare here. You roll a D12, and you're trying to roll equal to or higher than the severity number on your damage token. I don't know if that's what it's actually called, but that's what I'm calling it. We want to get a 4 or higher to shake this off as a trivial damage. And we got a 10. So hit marker comes off, goes back in the cup. That card has been, well, yeah, that was fully resolved before we went to the hit check. So now we're still engaged, so we have to reveal another one. This time, let's try a maneuver. So there are 3 types of maneuvers that you can do when you're being tailed. And they are evade, slip, and turn. I've got some stuff I've written in here from the errata, some clarifications there on slip. But so evade, what that's going to do is you get to draw 2 tailed cards instead of 1, and you get to choose the result that you want. So it gives you, you know, a better chance of getting a more favorable result for you. And the other thing it does is once you resolve it, it automatically you apply an automatic reduce result. Also, if you're in a section, you can break off one of your fighters to become lost contact, which is imposing a loose result on it. And that's now independent, and you can have the fighter marker, the Luftwaffe fighter marker, follow that one. So it'll be tailed by it. Or you can leave it remaining with the section, whichever one you choose. So basically, it gives you a couple advantages. Like I said, you get two cards and you can choose the result. It automatically reduces the marker in addition to whatever was on the card. And if you're part of a section, you can split off one of your fighters and either have the remaining marker stay with the section or follow the fighter that you split off. Slip is something that you can only do as part of a section, so I'm going to kind of skip that one for now until we get to the later scenarios. And then turn is the third choice. And basically that means you're turning around to take them head on, attempting to. And if the card that you draw has this symbol on it, which if you look at this one we drew earlier, you'll notice in this top section, which wouldn't have applied to us, but this is just an example of it. If that symbol appears, then your tight turn was successful, and you get to ignore all of this down here and only do what's inside the symbol there. If you didn't do a turn maneuver, then you just do what's down here and ignore this part of it. So it's either or, depending on whether you did a turn or didn't attempt a turn. If it is successful, in addition to only having to apply that, you then become, assuming there's any fighter left on the marker, you change your attitude from being tailed to head on. So it's like you spun around and now you're flying right at them. All right, so those are our choices for maneuver, which I think we are going to attempt a turn this time. And there are markers out yet that you can use to indicate your maneuver. Here's one. So we'll say this guy is doing a turn. So then we'll draw our card. Again, we're being tailed. Since we didn't do evade, we just draw one. And we're hoping to see that tight turn, and we got it. So we're a single fighter. They are a 109. So tight turn. So we avoided a hit, and we got a vanish result. So this guy just disappears. And now we are no longer engaged. So that will conclude the dogfight cycle. And that also concludes this scenario. So you'll notice it says here, it ends when you're either no longer engaged or you enter a fate box due to a hit check. And then we see what our outcome was. We get a victory if we scored a damage result on the German fighter, while your fighter did not suffer a hit. We didn't get that. Tough scrape, you scored a damage result and your fighter also suffered a hit. We didn't get that. Flyby, no damage result and no hit result. We didn't get that. Close shave, no damage result, but your fighter suffered a trivial hit. That was what we had. So our outcome was a close shave. If you didn't cause damage and you ended up in a fate box, then that's the short career result. Okay, then they give an example of playing through that scenario, but we don't need to look at that because we just did. So that was scenario 1. So we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to do, since these are pretty short, I'm going to do all of the fighter scenarios as a single episode here. So we're going to go ahead and move on to scenario 2. And scenario 2 is tailed. 18 August 1940, the ME-109s of ace pilot Helmut Wick's 3rd of JG2 are escorting a bombing raid over England. Wick sees a section of Spitfires coming at him head-on. I pulled the stick full backwards, he recalled later, and positioned myself behind them. You are controlling red section of this Spitfire squadron. Wick's single ME-109 sets up tailing it. Maneuver to shake this 109 off your tail and, if possible, shoot him down. So we're going to be using the squadron display for this one. And we'll place our red section Spitfires onto one of the spaces, being tailed by a lone 109. If one of your fighters is knocked out of formation by a loose result, or could potentially also be from a slip or evade, as we'll see, slide it off the display. If no longer engaged with a Luftwaffe fighter marker, it goes home. Remove it from play. This is called return to base or RTB. And this scenario ends by running the dogfight cycle one round after another. When your fighters are no longer engaged, or if they enter fate boxes due to a hit check, the scenario ends. So basically the same, just we have 3 fighters now instead of a single fighter. All right, so let's get this one set up. And we will be using this, this is our squadron display board. You can have up to 4 sections there in your squadron. Since we're just doing the one section, we'll leave it folded in half here. Save a little space. And I need to get our other red Spitfires out. Here's red 3. And that's Hurricane. red 2. Okay, so we've got red leader, red 2, and red 3. So they're in their Vic formation. And again, we have a lone 109 tailing us. And we're still using the Spitfire decks. We'll need to reshuffle them since we're starting a new scenario. Must be something with that contrast of the colors here against the, yeah, you can see the board's doing it too. It's causing those artifacts there. It's kind of weird. Maybe it's just on my screen and it doesn't come through that way on the video. That would be nice. But once we're on here, it looks fine. All right. So we are being tailed. Now I will go back to our maneuvers again now because we do have our third option available this time, which is slip. So again, it's only possible if you're in a section, which we are now. Well, there is an exception. There's a certain skill, ace skills, that can allow you to do it. And it's kind of like the turn where you're looking for a specific, we'll just pull one out of the middle of the deck here. You're looking for this icon now on the result card. So if you choose to do a slip and you see that, then your slip was successful. And you get to ignore all of the results. And instead, one of your fighters is immediately placed so that it is tailing the Luftwaffe fighter marker. So they slip out of formation and get in behind them. And then the German pilot breaks off their pursuit as they attempt to evade the RAF fighter that's now tailing them. So they let the other fighters go. So basically, they're no longer tailing your section, and you kind of move them off separately. And now this fighter, which is now no longer part of the section, is tailing them. And this clarification from the errata was just the newly tailing RAF fighter becomes lost contact. All right, so we now have our choice of evade, turn, or slip. So we've seen how turn works. So I think just for illustrative purposes, this isn't necessarily the best choice here, but I'm going to do a slip maneuver. So one of these markers is for slip. I can find it. Evade, turn, cruise, bombers, slip. There we go. On back with some of the evades. So we're going to do a slip maneuver. So again, we're hoping to see that slip icon. Whoops. In our result. So now we are a section, so we're looking on this top row now instead of the bottom row. And we're going against 109s, so we use this portion up here. Wow, look, we were going to have to suffer all of that. But because of our slip, which was successful, all of that gets ignored. We slip one behind them. We're going to choose red leader to do that. So they break off and start tailing this one. And then these two are still a section, but they're no longer engaged with anyone. And they won't be able to re-engage anyone during this dogfight cycle. So that's why I said this may not have been the best choice in this situation, but I wanted to illustrate the slip maneuver. So now we've reached, we did step A, the dogfight. Step B was the hit check. We don't have any. Step C is resume. So we go back and draw another dogfight card. This time we are tailing them. So we will draw from this deck. And we are now a single fighter. We're doing tailing, so we ignore this half of the card this time. Tailing against 109s. And they get an S result. So let's see what that is. I believe that's a split for them. Yes. Split German. Germans maneuver behind your fighter. Split the tailed Luftwaffe marker into two smaller units. For example, replace a tailed swarm with two rotas. Then place one of the Luftwaffe fighter markers so that it is tailing the RAF fighter or section. If the result is combined with the damage result, apply the kill to the Luftwaffe fighter marker that remains tailed by your fighter or section. So the one that's in front of you. Lone German fighter? Yes. In fact, it is. If tailing a lone fighter, ignore this result. The German fighter remains tailed and does not slip behind your fighters. So kind of just like us, they can't slip unless they're part of a formation. All right, so in our case, we just ignore it. So that's all that happens on that card. So no hit check again. We go back to resume. So we'll draw another tailing card. And this time we're a lone fighter going up against 109s. We got the vanish result, so they go away. And then this little bullet icon is low ammo. So for low ammo, we attach a low ammo marker to the RAF fighter. And if it's a section, you choose one randomly. If that fighter is already low ammo, then they go to no ammo. And if you have no ammo, then anytime you would get a damage result, you ignore it. All right, so we are low ammo. And here's our low ammo markers. And we will put that on this guy. And then again, if he would get another low ammo result, you just flip it over and then they're no ammo. And now we go to the resume step, and we are no longer engaged with any fighters. So the scenario ends. So let's see what our outcome was for this one. Victory would have been if we scored one or more damage results with none of our fighters sent to fate boxes. We didn't get that. Tough scrape would be more damage results than fighters in fate boxes. We didn't get that. Inconclusive, no damage results and no severe hits. or damage equals fighters in fate boxes. So that was what we had. And then if we had more fighters in fate boxes than we got damage results, then we would be relegated to flying a desk. So at least we didn't get that. So inconclusive outcome for scenario 2. That will take us to scenario 3. On their tail. Let's get this flattened out here as best we can. 13 August 1940. Fighter Command's 43rd Squadron from RAF Tangmere attacked Me-109s of, I assume that's first of JG2, as it was sweeping ahead of an incoming raid by Junkers, which are bombers. You lead your Hurricanes of Blue Section into the dogfight when, stroke of luck, a swarm of 109s appears right in your sights. Okay, so this time they're setting us up in a tailing position. We've got Hurricanes this time, which are more lethal to bombers, but a little more vulnerable to 109s. So we might need to be a little more careful here. We're tailing a 109 swarm, and we are lost contact, which doesn't really matter at this point. We'll understand more what that means as we get further in. The scenario ends again when either fighters are no longer engaged or if they're all in fate boxes. And they're warning us that this swarm will most likely prove more durable than the lone Messerschmitts we've been dealing with before. Although we did have to deal with a Rota in one of them. All right. So let's get this set up. We'll use blue section like they do in here. And we need our Hurricanes this time. So we won't be using the Spitfire cards for this one. Oops, let me get these back in too. Head on and tailed. We will be using the Hurricane cards. And we need some Hurricane fighters. Here's a blue Hurricane. Here's a blue Hurricane. Blue Spitfire, blue Hurricane. And blue Hurricane. Alright, so we got blue leader with his wingmen, blue 2 and blue 3. And this time we are tailing what happened to my fighter I was using before? There he is. This time we need a swarm of 109s, which are these larger markers that have 4 fighters on them. And then when they get reduced, you'll flip them over to 3. Then they'll go down to 2, and then down to 1. Unless they vanish, then the whole marker just goes away. All right, let's get these decks shuffled. All right, we are tailing. So we will draw a card from this deck. So left half of the card, we are a section. We're going against 109s. So we got this little G here. So let's see what that means. I know what it means, but for your benefit. That is a loose if it's a green pilot. So it would be the same as a loose result if there was a green pilot in the section. For these scenarios, we're not using pilot training level, so we don't have any green pilots or veterans or anything like that. They're all just regulars. So that will have no effect on us. The next two we've already seen before. Low ammo. So one of the fighters will become low ammo, and we'll roll to see what it was. Now when you're in a section like this, they have these little things down here to help aid you in choosing a random fighter. So since all three are occupied, we use these numbers here. So 1 to 4, it'll be blue 2. 5 to 8, it'll be blue leader. 9 to 12, it'll be blue 3. And we got an 11. So blue 3 goes low ammo. And then the final result is reinforcements. So they get, now not only are we tailing a swarm of 109s, we are being tailed by a rota of 109s. All right, so let's check our sequence of play and see what happens next. We did tailing. So since you always do head on, then tailed, then tailing, we don't have to go back and do the tailed yet for this time through the cycle. So now we go to the hit check, no hits, we resume, so now we go back up. So now we are being tailed, so we'll have to do that. We'll resolve this one first and then this one. So we're going to resolve the tailed engagement first. Now you remember when we're being tailed, we have the option of doing a maneuver. However, if you are also tailing a marker and you choose to do a maneuver, then you're basically deciding to let these go, and they'll fly off and you'll no longer be engaged with them. Which in this situation, given that we already have one fighter with low ammo, and we're right now 3 against 6, and they did say that the Hurricanes don't do quite as well against 109s. Thinking that's not going to be a bad thing. So, what do we want to do? I don't know that we necessarily want to turn into them. How about we try and evade? We haven't tried an evade yet. So let's do that and see how that works. It's probably not going to help toward victory because I'm pretty sure in this one you're trying to get kills again in order to get a better result. But again, for illustrative purposes, we're going to do that. So we're going to choose an evade maneuver. That means we've decided to let these guys go. They fly off. And now we get to draw 2 tailed cards and choose the result that we want. So we are a section going against 109s. So it's going to be either this or this. And they are exactly the same, just in a different order. And again, you can You can apply them in any order you like, so not sure why they chose to do these in different order. But yeah, so it vanishes. Now, if it hadn't vanished, remember at the end of after we resolve everything on the card, we would get to automatically apply a reduce result as well. But in this case, they're gone, so we won't. We take a hit, and then we consume a fuel, but we're not tracking fuel in these scenarios, so that has no effect. So yeah, that didn't work out. I mean, it got us away from them, but somebody's going to take a hit. So I guess first let's see who it's going to be, and then we'll draw the marker for it. So again, 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12. And this time we got a 12, so it's poor blue 3 again. Not only is he low ammo, but he gets hit in the cockpit. Uh-oh. And he needs to roll a 7 or better in order for that to be trivial. So we are now to that point, the hit check phase. Get this up on here more so it's level, it doesn't roll back. All right, so hit check, 7 or higher. We got a 3. So he goes to the fate box. And it says for these scenarios that you don't really need to resolve the fate of your pilots that were shot down, but I like to do it anyway because it's fun. So we'll do that here in a second. I'll show you how that works. But again, that will now end the scenario because we are no longer engaged with any German fighters. So let's see what our outcome was, and then we'll see what the fate of Blue 3's pilot was. Definitely not victory. We didn't get any damage results, nor is it a tough scrape, nor is it inconclusive. Looks like we're going to get to fly a desk because there are more RAF fighters in the fate boxes, 1, than German fighters killed, 0. But again, I was more looking to illustrate that other maneuver that we hadn't seen yet. So that's why we did it that way. All right, let me get the main board over here. This is called the interception board. Yeah, the interception map. And at the top of it, there are these fate boxes. So when you have a severe hit, you look at what type it was. Remember, ours was a cockpit. And you place that fighter in that fate box. So he'll go in that cockpit box. And then at the end of the patrol, once, you know, basically the whole thing's done and everyone's either gotten shot down or returned to base, you'll resolve these to see what happened to the pilots that got shot down. And so we look at this chart on here, and I will point out there's a misprint on the board. I printed a little sticker out to fix it, but this was part of the errata too. In the engine fate box, the center column for being sent to the hospital said 5 to 9, or 5 to 10, sorry. And then the bailout, this is for the green pilot row, the bailout was a 12, and so someone was like, well, what happens if you roll an 11? And this was supposed to be 5 to 11, so I printed a little sticker out for that. If anybody wants the graphic for that to print out your own, let me know and I can send it to you. Yeah, anyway, we're over here in the cockpit box. So we look at what type of plane we were flying. We were in a hurricane, so we're going to be using this column. And so we roll a die, and depending on what we get, we either get a hanger result, which means we didn't actually crash, we were able to make it back with the damage and land the plane successfully, or we crash, or we're on fire. So let's see what happened to the pilot of Blue 3. We got a 7. So he did crash. So because he crashed and he's not a green pilot, now if you're a green pilot, if you get anything other than a hanger result, you have to use this row down here for the final results of what happens to you. But in our case, we crash, so we follow this arrow. So if we get an 8 or higher, we bail out. If we get a 3 to 7, we go to the hospital. And if we get a 1 or 2, we're KIA. So we want an 8 or higher. We got it. We got an 11. So we were able to successfully bail out before our plane crashed. And so we would put his pilot marker in the bailout box, and then he just would have to sit out on the next patrol. All right, so that is scenario 3. Moving on, let's check out scenario 4. I believe there are 6 of these. No, 5. There's 5 dogfight scenarios. So we got 2 more. All right, this one is RAF Advantage. So here's where we start learning what these advantage cards are. So 18 August 1940, ME-110s of ZG/26 Horst Vessel Squadron pass over Harrietsham, Kent, when they're bounced by hurricanes of 56 Punjab Squadron. You control yellow section, capitalize on your starting advantage, and win this dogfight. So we're going to be using yellow section this time, and we are hurricanes. And then we're going to shuffle the deck of RAF Advantage cards and draw one. And basically what these advantage cards are is they're like the setup cards for the individual dogfights. So when you get attacked by escorts, or when you attack the escorts, you'll draw either an RAF Advantage card or a Luftwaffe Advantage card, and those will tell you how to set up that dogfight. So let's go ahead and do that. And then they have event text on them as well. So this says if it applies, then we go ahead and follow those instructions as well. And for this training scenario, we're assuming that the escort is heavy and that there is no sun. So those might affect some of that event text on the advantage card. And then once again, this scenario ends when we are no longer engaged, or if all of our fighters are in fate boxes. Let's get this one set up and see if we can get a victory this time. We need to get our yellow section hurricanes. Where's yellow leader? There he is. All right, so we got yellow leader. I always put yellow 2 on the left and yellow 3 on the, or 2 on the left and 3 on the right. I'm not sure if it really matters, but it makes more sense to me. All right. And then again, we're using our hurricane cards, because we were flying Hurricanes. When you're playing a campaign, you'll always play either Hurricanes or Spitfires for the entire campaign. You'll never like mix and match or switch back and forth or anything like that. So that'll be a choice you make at the beginning of the campaign, and then you'll stick with that throughout. All right, and once these are shuffled, we need to get the RAF Advantage cards out, and we'll draw one of those to see what we're up against. From the playthroughs I've watched, it seems like the vast majority of the time you get Luftwaffe Advantage cards. I think a lot of it depends on, I think you roll for, if you're going after the escorts, you roll basically to see if you get advantage over them or not. But it's, from what I've seen, it's pretty difficult to do that. So they will usually have the advantage. And the other way you can get them is some of the Luftwaffe Advantage cards will say that if you have a veteran pilot, and if some, I think some other certain conditions apply, then you can draw an RAF Advantage card instead. All right, so here are the RAF Advantage cards. We're going to draw one of them and see what it says. So we are tailing, and here you can't really go by the graphic. When you're playing the game, you're basically going to have these different escort stations located on the interception map, and some of them might be 109, some of them might be 110s. So depending on which ones you're dealing with will dictate whether they're 109s or 110s. Did this one say what they would be? I don't remember now. It says it's, oh yes, 110s. Setup instructions dictate that they are 110s. And so this will apply. So stay on them. If the German fighters are 110s, you may attack head-on instead. We're in Hurricanes. I don't know. Should we do it? We haven't done a head. Well, we did the one from the first one. Yeah, you know what? Let's try switching to head-on for this. So we're going to have a rota of 110s this time. So we'll need to remember to use the other side of the Dogfight card. And where did those get to? Here they are. Where's the rotas? Here they are. We've got a rota, and we're going to be going head on. So we'll draw a head on and tailing card. So we're using the right half. We are a section. We're going up against 110s. Okay, we got a... This probably isn't going to give us what we need for our victory, but it is what it is. So we got a result we haven't seen yet, a C. And you might be able to guess what that stands for, given that we're flying at each other head on. And if you guessed collision, you were right. There's a chance that impact happens. Roll a die. If I won, the pilot is killed and the German fighter or bomber is destroyed. If it appears on a dogfight card, reduce the Luftwaffe fighter marker. And then again, you randomly determine who it is if you're a section. And then it talks about what to do if it's on a bomber, but we're not to that yet. So we need to roll a die, and if we get a 1, we collide with one of those fighters. And we got a 10. So no collision. But then we get a vanish result. So they just disappear. And we got a hit result. So we will draw. Oops. You don't belong down there. We will draw a random hit marker. It's a bad one. Cockpit 9. Then we got to see who gets it. Two is going to be yellow 2. All right, so we go to the hit check step, and we need to roll 9 or higher, and we got a 3. So again, they will go to the cockpit fate box, and we will see what happens to them. Well, that was very brief. Sometimes they go that way. Sometimes the dogfights can drag on over several rounds, and sometimes they just end immediately. So I'm sure we're going to get another fly of the desk outcome here. More RAF fighters in fate boxes than German fighters killed. We haven't seen a single damage result yet. All right, so let's see what happened to the pilot of Yellow 2. Again, he's in the cockpit fate box. He's flying a Hurricane, so we're using that first column there. 9. Almost landed it. But he crashes. Not a green pilot, so we follow the arrow. And again, we need an 8 or higher to bail out. But at least we want to avoid a 1 or a 2, so we're not dead. And we got a 12. He bailed out as well. So that is scenario 4. That will take us to our final dogfight scenario. Scenario number 5. And you might have guessed it already. Luftwaffe advantage. And again, from what I've seen, this is what you're going to end up with the majority of the time in your dogfights. 18 August 1940, the ME-110s of ZG/26 Horst Vessel Squadron are back again in the afternoon, escorting a bombing raid to RAF North Weald. As acting squadron leader, Pete Townsend positions his 85th Squadron Hurricanes to make a run at the bombers. The 110s attack. You are in control of Townsend's B flight, red and yellow sections. Ooh, so we got 2 sections now, which compose a flight. All right, so we're going to deal 2 Luftwaffe advantage cards and apply each to one of the sections. The fighters are going to be 110s. We do have heavy escort for this scenario, and it's considered to be in the sun, or coming out of the sun, means the same thing. And then once again, we run the dogfight cycle until we are no longer engaged or everyone is in a fate box. And then keep in mind that once an RAF fighter breaks out of its section through a loose result, it can't get back in. It returns to base as soon as it is no longer engaged to a Luftwaffe fighter marker. And that's for this scenario. If it were a patrol, lost contact fighters could remain in play and reform as a section. We'll get to see how that works a bit later. But for the purposes of this, if they are broken out of the section and are no longer engaged with anything, then they just RTB. All right, and it looks like we're setting up as lost contact to begin with. Although I would think that wouldn't happen until, normally you're not, if you get attacked while you're going after the bombers, you're only lost contact if you're still engaged after the first round of dogfighting. But doing this one a little bit different, I guess. All right, so let's get this set up. We're going to flip this over because it said we were part of B flight. Side is A flight. I mean, this half, it's not really the side, I just have it folded to take up less space. And what did it say if we were Spitfires or Hurricanes? Yes, Hurricanes. We need yellow section and red section. So here's the yellow section, and then they have these little, where are they at? They have these markers for indicating, like for red section. And you can flip it over to this side to show that they're lost contact, which apparently, according to the diagram anyway, we're starting out lost contact, but again, that doesn't matter for this scenario. Those are the red Spitfires. Where are my red Hurricanes? There's 1, 2, the rest. Oh, there's 1. And here's the leader. Yeah, they actually have 4 of them because there's an optional thing. I think one of your ace skills maybe lets you set up as a finger 4 formation instead of a Vic. And you actually have 4 fighters in your formation. We are not, so we don't need red 4. All right, so there's our 2 sections. We're using Hurricanes again, so we'll stick with these cards. And this time we need 2 Luftwaffe advantage cards. So where's my yellow section lost contact marker? There we go. Now we look just like the setup diagram. And our Luftwaffe advantage cards. Let's get this a little more centered in the shot there. Whoops. I'm accidentally shuffling the escort reaction cards in with them too. Get those separated back out. I suppose I could have just pulled one and ignored it if it was an escort reaction, but all right, that's enough shuffling. First Luftwaffe advantage for yellow section. They're being tailed by, and these were 110s, right? Yep. So they're being tailed by a rota of 110s. And bounced if heavy escort, which our scenario instructions said we do assume that it's heavy. We replace the rota with a swarm. Great. Where am I? There. Need a swarm of 110s. Where are they? There we go. That's not as good. And then for our second card for red section, we've got a rota of 110s coming at us head on. And bounced if heavy escort add a swarm, it tails your fighters. So we also have a swarm on our tail. Let me find another one of those. This looks like it could get dicey. All right, so when you have multiple dogfights going on at the same time, even though it's, you know, thematically everything's happening simultaneously, you resolve one round. I think you resolve one round of the one round of the other, and just keep going back and forth like that. Or do you resolve one to its completion and then go to the next one? Let me see. I mean, I don't think it really matters too much. Okay, yeah, it sounds like you do one dogfight to completion, then you do the next dogfight to completion. So we will do that. Let's shuffle these. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. All right, so what do we want to do here with yellow section? Thinking maybe we try to do a slip. So we're being tailed. We're a section against 110s. If it had been 109, their slip would have been successful. So instead, oh, that's interesting. It just they just vanish. Well, that one was easy, but we didn't get any kills. So that dogfight is over. Now we'll go to the next one. So we have to do the head-on first. Remember, it's head-on, tailed, then tailing. And if you choose to do a maneuver and you're tailing someone, you let them go. We have to do our head-on first. So this half, we're a section. We're going against 110s. Hey, there we got a kill. About time. So this G, remember, means that a green pilot goes loose. We don't have any green pilots. We get a damage result, which takes them down to a lone fighter. And for this scenario, it doesn't really matter, but you would roll to see who actually got the kill. 6 is going to be red leader, so you would mark him down as having a kill. But then we also, well, then the marker vanishes, so this guy zooms away, and we get a hit. So the hit is going to be a fuselage 8. And who's going to get it? 9 is red 3. Okay. But we're not to the hit check yet, because we still got to deal with these ones that are tailing us. One thing I will point out is, let's say that this guy had this hit and we were tailing someone. Like, let's say he got it from the ones that tailed us. You're not allowed to perform a maneuver if anyone in your section has a hit marker on them. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It doesn't apply here, though. So we are now being tailed. Oh, well, yeah, it does apply here. What am I talking about? So yeah, normally we would be able to do a maneuver here, but because one of our fighters has a hit marker on them, we are not able to. See where it says that. Yeah, a hit marker prevents you from selecting maneuver, as it says on page 12. If the RAF fighter has a hit marker attached, you may not select a maneuver. If only one fighter has a hit marker, its section is barred from maneuvering. So, even though these two guys are fine, we're not allowed to choose a maneuver because of that hit marker. So we're being tailed, and we are a section, and they are 110s. Ooh, so they're going to vanish, and then we take 2 more hits. Yikes. That is not good. Hopefully we can shake these off, because these guys vanished, so the dogfight's going to be over. If we can shake off all 3 of these hits, we'll actually have a victory here. So this is going to be an engine 6. Let's see who gets it. 9. Poor red 3. He's just getting all shot up. And the second hit is an elevator 8. And the lucky recipient of that is red 3. I guess the good news is, if he does, at least it wasn't across multiple aircraft, because now at least we'll get the, we'll either get inconclusive or fly a desk. So let's see if he can shake all 3, if all 3 of these are trivial. So we'll do the elevator 8 first. So he needs to roll an 8 or higher. Yes, nice. Then an engine 6. Ooh, yes. Could this be our first victory? Fuselage 8. Yes! Wow. 2 of them just barely. All right, so all 3 of those were trivial hits. which and the scenario ends because we're no longer engaged. And we did get one damage result. So we have victory. You scored one or more damage results on German fighters while none of your fighters were sent to fate boxes. Excellent. All right. That is going to conclude the dogfight scenarios for Skies Above Britain. There we go. Game designed by Jerry White and Gino Willis. Join us next time. We will do the bomber scenarios. But until then, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next episode.